All right, so you have two. Because I didn't want you going home from church like saying, man, they tempted me with jelly beans and wouldn't let me eat anything. So I'm going to have you take one and eat it. Okay, but leave the other one. And I do not like licorice.
Yeah,
Huh?
I don't either.
I know it. I had asthma as a kid, and I don't know why, but they had this yellow licorice medicine that I had to take. So I have this something against, and I'm assuming that one is licorice, so I'm keeping that one. And this is pinkish. Isn't that amazing? Anybody on a diet? Did I just like, oh, Gerard, you're just being, you need to go sit in my office. Wow. Isn't that just like if you just have one? Because normally I eat anything like by that handful. But enjoy the wine. Isn't that amazing? Mm. Now, you have one left. This, as you saw in the video, it doesn't represent your life. It represents your day. Because life is made up into days. This is your day. I want you to keep this and put it in somewhere that you'll remember it for tomorrow and the next day. It's one day. Well, this calls for a drink. The Bible. See, this has like been a really, I've had to use a lot. I've already had a full cup. This is my backup. Once this is gone, services just have to be over. The Bible is full of really interesting stories. And so many times we just see them at surface value, but there's so much more underneath the surface that is there. And we're going to talk about more underneath the surface of this story because this is truly an interesting story. And it really has to do with the most, what had to have been the most interesting the most interesting day in this man's life. You see, I'm convinced that no matter what age we are, no matter where we're at in our journey, no matter how we feel about ourselves, that there are open doors that God wants to still put in our life and open up new experiences, better experiences. He wants to bless us. He wants to make our territory of influence larger so that we can bless other people. I'm convinced that there's more for you, regardless of how you think about yourself. Or again, I know, I'm not going to go through it again, but I've been to a point in my life earlier on where I just thought like, it's like there's nothing left for me. Just, I don't want you to think that way because there's so much more. So this guy has this moment of an open door. What's he going to do with it? And it's in the book of John, chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. It says this: Jesus went up from Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now, there was in Jerusalem near the sheep gates. What's that? I'll explain it in just a second. Near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Okay, so let me explain this. This is by someone drew it up artistically. I have no idea what the red stuff's about. It's just like an artist saying like, I want to have blotches of red to make it cool, but I don't know why all the red's there, but it's just there. So the big structure where it says the Temple Mount is where the temple in Jerusalem is at, and there are there are walls all around the city of Jerusalem. And within the walls around the city, there are lots of these gates where you could enter into the city. And they looked like the little picture on the right-hand side, a gate, an opening. And one of them was called the Sheep Gate because there was a sheep market nearby in the city. And so it was just the most logical place to bring sheep into this area of the city. Now, if you look toward the bottom there's the bottom center area. These were the Bethesda pools, which most likely started off to be just nice areas where the public could come and have refreshing water and just enjoy themselves. But at some point in history, somebody who had some kind of ailment said, "Do you know what an amazing thing happened to me when I got in this water? I felt better. I was like healed from the struggle that I was facing." And so word started to spread to where people believed that these waters had healing powers in them. And then the story got even larger, and the story became that there was an angel that would occasionally enter into these waters and stir up the waters. And if you could be the first one into the waters when the angel stirred the waters, you would get the healing. So what happened was then that this turned from an area just of kind of a public, refreshing swimming area to a place that was surrounded with people that had physical ailments. And every day they were there, and they were hoping that they could be the first one in when the angel stirred the water. Okay, so let's go back. We're going to review what I just read. Now, there in Jerusalem, near the Sheep Gate, is a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Now, colonnades are columns, and there were canopies that these columns supported. So there's 5 of these around the pools to give shade to the people, okay? Getting the picture? So here, a great number of disabled people used to lie. Disabled, like the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed, for example. Can you get the picture? All around these pools of water now are people that are blind, people that cannot walk, and people that part or all of their body is paralyzed. And according to the custom and the belief of the day, somehow the water will be stirred at some moment throughout the day, and you've got to be the first one in there. Can you just imagine the tension and the drama of that place? Now, one who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. Invalid here is specifically saying, this is in the days of the Bible and how they talked and termed physical situations. This is specifically referring to the fact that he was lame, so he couldn't walk. There was a problem with his legs. This man could not walk. And he had been an invalid. He'd been lame for 38 years. Now, I don't know if he was able to walk as a child and then something happened and he could not walk, which has, a certain status in its own right, or I don't know if he was born this way, but he's at least 38. And we know that he hasn't been able to walk for 38 years. And we also know that he's there along with probably hundreds of other people. So, 38 years is 13,870 beings of life. And I gotta say that in ancient times, including Bible times, this word invalid was a word that had a label to it. Okay? Because this word invalid really was like invalid in the ways that people looked at the lame, the blind, the deaf. In those days, even the religious world, they were terribly cruel to people that were blind and lame and disabled. And invalid, really, for all practical purposes, meant invalid. Because something in their life did not function right, so therefore they weren't totally a whole person. Listen, religious people can be as mean as anybody. Because you can be religious and not be following Christ. You can be religious and not really have a true life-changing faith. You can go to church, you can do all the religious stuff and be a really mean person. And even religious people were mean to the blind, the disabled, the lame. To the extent that the rabbis many times would not, in fact a lot of times, they wouldn't even go near these people. Because they were believed to have some kind of disease or some kind of sin that might rub off on these religious people. And it was even taught in that day that they were in that situation because God was punishing them for something they or their parents had done. How cruel. Can you get the drama of the moment? A pool of water, a couple of pools of water, the pools of Bethesda. And actually, I've read one source that says this was an embarrassment to the area, to the town, because these beautiful pools now were surrounded by those people. But of course, who is interested in those people? Now, when Jesus saw him lying there, which was amazing because most rabbis wouldn't even be there, he sees this man lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time. Now, when it says he learned, it does not mean that he did not know. It is just a figure of speech saying that this man had told him. See, Jesus would ask questions to get people to think. Jesus would ask questions so that people would have to kind of formulate and think through their answer. And it was a way that Jesus could get them to think along with him. Because the rest of the crowd that was there and probably listening also, and they're all thinking, how long have I been here? So the man's response, although not given here, is obviously 38 years worth of these things, Jesus. Let's not make the assumption that life for him was awful. It didn't have to be. In fact, I'm just going to make the assumption, because the Bible doesn't tell us all of these details, because it wants us to think and think below the surface. And I'm just going to make the assumption for myself that maybe life wasn't just terrible. Maybe this man had chosen to make the most out of his 38 years worth of these, even though he could not walk. I know one thing. In order to be in the position where he is beside that pool of water, he had to have people in his life that loved him. Because he didn't get there himself. So he had to have one or maybe two if he's on a stretcher every day that loved him enough, and he was loving enough to them to have a relationship that they would want to go and take him every single day and sit there with him. Because there's no way that he would have a chance to get in first unless somebody cared enough to sit there with him. But that takes relationship, and that takes a man who must have cared about people. So I'm not assuming that his life, the 38 years of these, had to have been bad. All bad. In fact, I think maybe he was choosing to make the most out of it. And I give him credit for even being there, because it would have been easy after 38 years to say, I'm labeled an invalid. So God must also feel that way for me. And why even try it? I've tried for a long time. Why even try? But this man, like as we've been studying with Jabez, this man believed that there was still something more. There was still another door for him that God would want to possibly open. He didn't know what that door would look like, but he was there. He was there. He hadn't given up. He was still searching. Maybe God's going to do something. I love that about him. But check out this question. This is like if I had my own translation, like the PTW, Pastor Tom Whitesel, the PTW translation. It just doesn't sound good, but it says, for a long time he asked him, do you want to get well? The PTW translation would say, parenthesis, are you serious? Are you serious? Do you think I'm here and don't want this? Do you think I arranged my schedule? Do you think I got my brother-in-law, who's like in a bowling league and he had bowling today and he rescheduled? Do you think I went through all of this because I don't want to? But then there's the man who prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that God would give him a new job. Prayed and prayed and prayed. It was constant prayer. God, give me this new job. So God, miraculously after time, provides him with this opportunity. But the opportunity included more schooling. God even arranged it so that the schooling would be affordable. And then the man had a decision to make, and he turned it down because the man did not want to go back to school at that time in his life. Jesus asks this question, an uncomfortable one, because it must be asked. It must be asked. Jesus asked the question so that all the other people in who were listening there who also needed a healing, he wanted them to ask themselves, do I really want what I'm praying for? Because if I get what I'm praying for, life is going to change. And am I willing to change? Do I really want it? Jesus wants us to work through that. Do we really want it? What we're asking for. We talked about Jabez, where he starts off this prayer in the Old Testament. He says, Lord, bless me, bless me. Do we really want God to bless us? Because the next part is that that we're praying that God would increase our territory of influence. Do we really want that? Because if God increases our territory of influence, then that means life is going to change. Life as we know it's going to require more faith than it does today. But there's so much more of God we can experience and so much more good. And I don't care what it is. Being there with God is the place you want to be. But the question must be asked. So, here's the response. Sir, the invalid replied. He doesn't even answer the question because he knows and Jesus knows that the answer was obvious. It was just that Jesus wanted to ask it. So that he'd have to think through and the other people listening would have to think through it. But they both know he wants it. But he presents the problem. Listen. Anytime there's an open door offered to you in your life, first you're just going to have to ask the question, do I really want this? Am I going to go through it if God opens it? Am I going to trust God with the changes in my life that He's going to be there for me? That question must be asked, and then there also must be this understanding that it will be impossible for you to do by yourself. Because it's an open door of God. It's not me opening a door. It's God opening a door. If God opens a door, then He opens a door to a God-sized territory. And God-sized territories are going to need some help. So He presents the problem. He says, look, man, I have nobody to help me in the pool when the water stirs. So I don't know, on this day, maybe the guy did go back to the bowling alley and it's like, I brought him here, but I can't hang around, dude. Let's work this one out. Got my cell phone, you can text me, but I probably can't get back in time. So on this day, it's really bad. I want God to open a door for me. I want the blessings of God. I'm praying for more from God, but this is so impossible. I mean, it was impossible, but now it's like impossible. Because on this day, I don't even have anybody to help me. Do you feel like that? How am I going to do it, Jesus? And so he goes on with the problem. He says, look, when I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me. It's impossible. I don't know what the situation is in your life, but I do know this. There needs to be the question that is asked. One, do you really want it? Because wanting it also means that however God opens that door, there will be life changes. And you say, of course I want it. And if that's the case, don't be discouraged by the fact that it's impossible, because it's a God thing. So yeah, it's going to be impossible. In fact, God's open doors will have impossible written all over them, because it's God's doors. Now, something happens in this situation. Jesus says, do you want to be made well? He doesn't even answer him because Jesus knows, and he knows the answer to that. It's like Jesus understands. Jesus can tell our mind. He knows what's going on. Yeah, the answer is yes, 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 but I've got this situation, Jesus. And then all of a sudden, with no more conversation, at once, the man was cured. Here's the interesting thing about open doors. It's like we have to believe, we have to pray, we have to be looking, but there's somewhere in there that it's just so much all God that like he just did it. He just does it, and we didn't even have like Jesus doesn't say, okay, in your case I want you to go through physical therapy for 5 weeks, and when you're done with that, we're going to build that muscle up. And not anything against that. I'm just saying that somehow, whenever the moment comes that God's ready to take you through that door, if you're believing and you're trusting, God just somehow just does it. And at once, the man was cured. And I don't know if this curing comes along with this feeling. I don't know if he felt like he was cured. If all of a sudden there's this energy that goes through his legs and he's like saying, man, to walk. Or if there wasn't a feeling, but there was this look in Jesus' face like, hey, it's okay, you're good. But regardless of whether he felt he was cured or not, there is this moment now that after 38 years of not walking, even if it seems like he's cured, there's this moment, and there's this moment for your open door where you're going to have to take the step. Even though you feel like God is doing something, you're going to have to take the step. And there's this moment where he had to put his weight on legs that haven't worked for 38 years and trust that God is doing something. And I just got to believe that everybody is watching. So you talk about faith on the line. How does it feel after 38 years of not walking to all of a sudden try it? To put your weight on a leg that hasn't worked or legs that haven't worked. If you fall, you're going to look ridiculous. If you fall, you might break your arm. Might make things worse. There's that moment where you just have to say, I'm just gonna do it. And he picks up his mat and he walks through an open door. Okay, so this is about a question. And the question is, oddly enough, do you really want what you're praying for? It's about a question, and it's about an impossibility, because there will not only be the question, but listen, expect for it to be impossible. So now we're back down to 1. You still got the 1, Gerard?
I do.
Man, if you didn't, seriously.
I'm listening.
Yeah, and you're listening like double. Like, I've got it and I'm listening. Right? Oh, God bless me in this day. Really? Because if God blesses you in this day, He's not going to bless you just so that you can have more stuff and more things to selfishly do it with. He's going to bless you so that you can bless others. Are you up to that? Yeah, God, yeah. Are you? Bless me this day. Increase my territory this day. You start doing that, though, you're really going to need the hand of God with you, which is the third part of that prayer. Oh, God, that your hand be with me. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will choose to rejoice, even if I feel like I'm lame, if I'm disabled, if I'm blind, and I'm still just waiting by the door. I will choose to rejoice because this is the Lord's day. I will look for the opportunity. There's the question that must be asked. Do I really want it? Yes, God, I want it. Then realize it's going to be impossible, but this is a story about the God of possibilities. This one day. Our Father, who is in heaven, praise your name. May your kingdom come. May you come and rule and reign in my life this day. May you come and reign in my head. May you come and reign in my eyes. May you come and reign in my words. May you come and reign in my strength. May you come and reign in my hands. May you come and reign in my desires. May you come and reign in my feet. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. And on this day, the being that you have given me, may your will be done today. In my life, just like it is in heaven. And give me this day my daily bread. Whatever that includes for you. Whatever it includes for you this day. Pray it. Ask God to bless you for whatever it is you need this day. Give me my daily bread. And God, forgive me for the sins that I've committed today, the sins that could cause me to struggle this day. And God, help me to forgive others this day. And oh God, in this day, keep me away from evil. Keep me away from temptation. Oh God, for yours is the power I need today. Yours is the power I need this day. Yours is the glory. When this day is done and I look to tomorrow, I'm going to give you glory for this day. And it's all about your power, God, for this day. In Jesus' name. Amen. Take it. Keep it. Put it somewhere where you'll see it. Today. The rest of this, tomorrow, you've got a new one. What happens in your life?